So what is social data?
Social data actually has two meanings. One is it is data about the social graph. Think Facebook, who is friends with whom. Think your carrier, who you are calling, who is calling you. The second meaning, and increasingly important, is the meaning of data people socialize, share. So if you think, again, Facebook or other places where people share about what they're doing, where they like to go to, where they're experiencing, checking in, they socialize their data, and that is the second meaning of social data.
So what is the social data revolution? Is that primarily a change in mindset and how data is used?
Yes. So the social data revolution is triggered by the fact that this year more data is being created than from the beginning of mankind until the end of last year. So it is not primarily a technological thing, that revolution. But revolutions happen in the mindset of people. So the fact that people knowingly and willingly create and share data, the KGB wouldn't even gotten out of them under torture. That is where the revolution is.
I can see why, yeah. So what is the difference between a customer-centric approach and a business-centric approach to data?
Let me give you an example from my days at Amazon.com as chief scientist. A customer-centric metric is whether an item actually arrives at the day that it was promised to arrive at. A customer-centric metric is how long you have to wait until the call center answers. And even more importantly, whether you have to call back for a second time to get your answer to the question you have. In contrast to that, load of the call center, or average response times, or the relationship with UPS, or inventory you have, would be company metrics.
Okay.
Let me give you another example. Talking about inventory, it doesn't really matter whether you're out of an item which nobody looks at. So having weight
It's true, yeah.
of customer views, of having view-weighted availability, that is a customer metric. As opposed to just knowing how long something has been sitting on your shelves.
Right. Interesting. So as a measurement-focused culture, has that evolved from something that leading-edge businesses were doing to something that's just a must-have now at businesses and organizations?
So I like to shine a little bit of light into that question about measurement-focused. Innovation comes from being able to do experiments. So at an organization like Amazon.com, basically anybody can run an experiment on a tiny percentage of the customers. Now, for that, you have to know which experiments are doing well and which ones might not be doing all that well. So that means you need to measure lots of stuff and combine it into metrics. So those metrics are essentially the equation of the business. Going back to the example of the call center, when somebody calls once and gets their problem resolved, it actually is a good thing for the company. Wow, amazing customer service. They really know how to take care of me. However, if they need to call a second time, that's usually a very bad experience because for whatever reason, it needed a second call. So the person in the call center who takes that second call, before he can continue after the call, needs to make a judgment call. Was it the customer who is just unreasonable? Or maybe was it the first agent he talked to who didn't understand what the problem is, didn't know how to resolve it? And then gives feedback to the system. That's a simple way of instrumenting the system. And you very quickly see which customer service agents might not really be in the right job there. So we talk about metrics, we talk about measurement focus. The question is really, what is it? that you measure, and how do you put it together to make your equation of your business.
So last question for you. Amazon is obviously a company that's leading the way in a lot of that capacity. The equation of the business, that's a nice way of putting it. Are there other companies whose efforts along those lines should be emulated?
It's interesting to look at the DNA of companies when it comes to data. Quora, for instance, is a very good example of getting the incentives right. With the currencies they have, a quarter of what I offer for you to answer the question I have, a quarter gets to you irrespective of whether you're answering the question, just to compensate you for the interrupt. So in terms of design of interaction, I think Quora really leads the way there. But then think Google. Google is an amazing company when it comes to data that are automatically created somewhere, that it can find somewhere out there. And Facebook, of course, is an amazing company when it comes to creating a platform for people to interact and very carefully measuring what it is that they do. If you post something, it only takes me 10 minutes on average to respond. If I post something, you never comment. So those presumably previously binary relationships, friend or not friend, of course, are long gone, by building much better models of understanding who is actually more interested in whom. Who are the trust sinks, who are the trust sources in the system.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.